Uh, for me, I remember growing up a lot of the times, and again, because I was from South Africa, I'd been speaking English my whole life. I would always get, "Your English is pretty good," and then
Yeah,
I'd always say in my head, "I'm like, what do you mean for what? Like
yeah.
that's the only language I speak."
Do you speak Afrikaans as well?
I learned it up till when I left, which was in grade 3, and my parents speak it at home occasionally, so I can understand most of it. But I'm not a linguist at all, so I struggle to put because sometimes the sentences structures change around. I always struggle with that, so I'm not the
True.
best, but I can understand.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so when people would say your English is pretty good, I'd always
Yeah.
in my head I'd used now that I reflect on it, I used to get quite offended because I
Yeah,
was always be
right.
like, "What do you mean for what? I've lived here my whole life. I've spoken English my whole life. Like, what
It's
what are your thoughts around that?"
interesting because, like, obviously, you expect someone who looks like me or to have a particular type of accent, and someone who looks like you to have a particular type
Yeah,
of accent. That's just unfortunately like stereotypes. The stereotypes for a reason, right? Like they don't come out of the air. They sort of they come from certain sort of experiences or beliefs or
yeah,
something. So when they see someone like you or me speak in a particular kind of way, like it's more of like a pleasant surprise more than anything. I don't think a lot of people mean any harm by that. But sometimes you know how things come out wrong.
yes,
So like you might try to say they might have meant it as a compliment to me or a compliment to you. Oh, wow, you speak good English. They actually mean that. They're like
yeah.
they want you to feel happy, but then the way it comes out, it's just like makes you feel like oh, like
I know I'm to be honest, like I say I get offended by it, but I do the same thing.
yeah,
Like I'll be with my wife and friends at a restaurant, and then a Japanese guy will come and his normal accent. I'm like, "Oh, his English is so good."
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
so I'm the one who's actually the perpetrator of it,
Yeah.
which is quite funny.
And then I actually, it's similar for me. I get offended when I go to India and I speak Tamil, and people are like, "Wow, you speak such good Tamil." That actually upsets me.
Yeah.
That upsets me because like I speak Tamil my whole life. I speak Tamil at home. I read and write. I'm like pretty into my language and culture and things like that. And then I go back home and then they're like, "Oh yeah, this guy's from Australia. He's lived there for 10, 12 years, whatever."
Yep.
And then they'll like sometimes they'll talk to me in English and then I'll reply back in Tamil. And then when I speak Tamil, they'll be like, "Oh my god, you speak Tamil."
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'll be like, "Yeah, I do." So like similar to what you said, but then my version of getting offended.